Assalamu alaikum. Hi guys. My name is Tafel, calling from. We're here from Bond Adam Solicitors. I'm here with my colleagues Misbah, Ismail, and Geet. Cool. Um, we're here on the radio to speak about some of the topics that we deal with. We're here to speak about property law and immigration. I believe Misbah and we tend to work in the conveyancing and property department, and Geet deals with immigration. Um, Usually, I don't really deal with immigration much. Would you like to give us a intro, Geet, on what it is you do in immigration?
Hello everyone, it's Keith Cole from Bond Adams. Within Bond Adams, our immigration department covers most of the areas of immigration, such as personal and business immigration. This includes spouse visas, it includes visit visas, it includes further leave to remain applications based on partner, parent, child, and we also cover business immigration, which includes sponsorship license applications, which is in demand currently, and also skilled worker applications, which are very in demand. This is where you switch from either a student visa or a graduate visa, like any visa where you can do a in-country switch. And if you've got a sponsor in the UK who is willing to sponsor you, then yes, you may be eligible to apply for skilled worker.
Okay, Geet, just to start off with, I was approached not too long ago by an individual. Um, they had an issue not knowing when their how long a visa application takes. Would you like to walk through an application and why? I think they've been waiting about 3 4 months for theirs. They were unsure about how long it takes, and I think the person who was dealing with them didn't communicate exactly what it entails in that situation.
Okay. In with regards to time scale, there's different depending on the visa that you've applied for. Some visas you get a result within 3 months, some in 6 months, and some even in 3 weeks. Or if you pay for the priority service, you can also get a decision within 5 days. So it all depends on what route you've applied for and what visa you've applied for, and whether you've gone for the priority service, where you do pay extra fees for a quick decision.
Okay, so you can apply to get a quicker decision.
Yes,
Then,
you can.
yeah.
Yes, you can.
Okay. That's pretty good to know. Because a lot of the time there's just individuals that come up to me. Their visa's expired. There's certain things that they can't do because their visa's expired. Um, do you know the precautions of what happens if your visa expires? Like,
Okay, if you've applied before your visa has expired, then your visa or your leave to remain continues until you get a decision. So you don't really become an overstayer if you've submitted an application before your visa expired. You do have the same rights to live in the UK until you receive a decision. The only thing is that you can't travel whilst you've got a pending application.
okay, what about things like licenses and stuff? So, for example, if you got a driver's license here, and it expires, you can't. Okay.
That we can actually advise you when you do come to our when you do book a consultation with us. We It all depends on personal circumstances. So giving a general advice won't be correct.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Um, yeah, Misbah, you
Mm-hmm.
do property law, correct?
Yep, I
Uh,
do property.
yes. I believe um, we were discussing earlier about completion dates. What sort of issues do you have when it comes to completion? Are there any situations which are not too common but happen in general?
I think it all depends on the case itself, the transaction itself. With regards to completion and exchange, normally it's quite a smooth process. As long as everything's in order and our clients are happy, and whether it's the sellers or purchasers, as long as both parties are happy, then it's a smooth transaction. I think it's just in some cases, for example, if there's issues with the mortgage, or if there's I understand that sometimes that there can be issues at the initial stages of a transaction. For example, if there's a mortgage offer in place but there might be some amendments to be made, so you need to kind of go back and forth with the lender, or in cases where, for example, if we have had matters where, with regards to completion itself, there can be where our client may be, or the opposite client might request to actually stay in the property for a few days longer after completion. So, for example, let's just say if a client needs about 5 to 10 days to kind of stay in the property after completion has taken place, to kind of move their things about or just get settled into their new property. In times like this, when there is a mortgage offer in place, that does cause a problem, only because that's not something that the lender approves of. So in that circumstance, we usually don't go ahead with completing at that point, because we don't approve of the individual staying after completion if there is a mortgage in place.
Okay, so in terms of that, from what I know, mortgage lenders tend to ask for properties to be left in vacant possessions. That means it being empty on the day of completions, in order for the purchaser to move in. So in such cases, it would be a matter of us not allowing the seller themselves to stay at the property. In such cases, there's always ways where you can just delay the transaction.
Yeah.
Am I correct? And it is important that, more than the buyer, it's not that the seller, if the seller doesn't want to sell the property to this individual because they got a mortgage, it would be pretty much everyone that needs a mortgage that they will have to deny if they have conditions like this. In addition, a buyer has no control over this. At the end of the day, we are not only representing the buyer, but we're also representing the lender at the same time. In this situation, we need to protect the lender's guidance and their terms and conditions on what they want for the property.
Yeah, and I think we need to make sure that we're kind of complying with everything that's in place, and making sure that we're not kind of going against the lender just to go ahead with the transaction itself. It's always okay to kind of propose a new completion date that's both the parties are happy with. But I think all of this, obviously, it's always communicated with the clients anyway, so it's no type of scare, I guess. This is something that we always keep our clients in the loop with. But yeah, that's basically some things that kind of do affect completion. But apart from that, completion is pretty smooth. It's a smooth process. And after completion, depending on whether you're a seller or a purchaser, that's everything we deal with. So yeah.
Okay. Guy, do you tend to have any issues with like common issues with immigration when you're making applications and things like that?
What do you mean common issues?
So for example, are there situations where, like, or are there any complications in general in your applications, common ones? For example, there's questions that clients might ask you that are very, very common in terms of these applications and things like that.
Currently, we've been getting a lot of inquiries regarding our skilled worker visas that we do, that we cover. A lot of people think that they can just come to they can apply from abroad and just come to the UK and on something called a work permit and start working. As easy as it sounds, it's not that straightforward. You can't just apply for a work permit to come to UK. You actually need a UK sponsor, a UK employer who is willing to offer you that job.
Okay, so from what you're saying, it would be them needing to apply for a job.
Yes.
Before they come in, before they apply for a visa, and then once they do apply for that job, then they need to ask the company to apply So would the company apply for the visa, or would it
The
be them?
company must have a sponsorship license
Yeah.
for it. Well, what that means is that they must have this license, which is granted by the Home Office, and where they can actually sponsor migrant workers.
Okay.
And not all, like not every single company that they let apply to will have a license.
Yeah.
It's something that they will need to find out that their sponsor is actually being granted with that license. And even after that, there are certain requirements which they must meet, like English requirement, for example. And it depends on what field they're coming, like what field of work they're actually coming to do. Yeah, it actually depends on a lot of stuff.
Okay. That's pretty cool. In terms of if they aren't able to, if they are getting a job here, and the company doesn't have the permit you're referring to, what other alternatives are there for them?
We can actually assist the company to actually apply for a sponsorship license application,
Okay.
where they show that there is a genuine vacancy out there which this person will cover, and then yes, well, we can work with that company if they are willing to apply for a license, and we can assist them with that.
Okay.
Just a question. With regards to these licenses that these companies have, does it have like an expiration period or?
No, it doesn't. The company simply have to comply with the rules, and the company must not have their license revoked for any reason. The Home Office will only revoke licenses if you actually give them a reason to do so.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
So is there no like condition in terms of how long someone should stay at the company for? So for example, if I was from abroad, I was applying to this company. The company was, I got the working visa, and I didn't end up working there after 3 months. Would that be an issue in any case for the person applying for the visa?
Obviously, the company will have to notify the Home Office
Okay.
that this person who they've sponsored is no longer working there.
Okay.
That affects the applicant's visa,
Okay.
and it is the duty of the sponsor to actually notify the Home Office on
Okay.
this.
Okay. I'm guessing it's pretty similar for students as well, where students will need to get where the university needs to have a specific license. Am I correct, or is it just
Yes.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we'll just take a little commercial break. Yeah. We'll be back soon. guys. We're back from Bond Adams. With myself, Tafel, Geet, and Mispa. Yeah. I feel like we got a few more questions for Geet. Yeah.
Okay, so I've just got a couple of questions in regards to this work permit that you mentioned. Now, let's just say if there's an individual who's come here on a work permit and who has been with a company for a little while. However, the company gets liquidated. What happens in that circumstance with that individual?
Then that individual will need to find a new sponsor who's willing to sponsor him.
Okay.
Um,
And with regards to, for example, if the individual has been working here in the UK continuously for about a few years, maybe about 5 to 7 years, is there something that can happen after that, or do they need to continue working to keep that work permit?
Okay, usually in most cases, if you are in the UK as a skilled worker and you've continuously worked, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain, to live in the UK, which basically means like permanent stay.
Okay.
But obviously there are requirements to be met for that.
Okay, is there any sort of exams or anything that needs to be done?
For indefinite leave, any applicant will need to do a English test
Okay.
and also a life in the UK test.
Okay.
What's a life in the UK test?
Life in the UK test is a test where it's basically testing your basic knowledge about
Okay.
British culture.
So would it be like history about like
Yes.
the monarchy?
It does. Yes, it is. It does ask a lot of questions about the royal family as well,
Okay.
and it also just general questions like what. I had a client who was telling me that one of the easiest questions they had was what day is Christmas.
Okay.
Like if you live in the UK for long enough, you should know that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's just
yeah.
basically testing your everyday general knowledge.
Yeah. Okay.
And does
Okay.
this test change per year, or is it?
It's not changed for many years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has remained the same.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Do you guys have any questions for me? I feel like I've not been speaking much. Yeah.
Actually, you go ahead. Okay, I do actually. I have a lot of my clients who want to know if they are on a visa like limited leave, can they buy a house in the UK?
Okay. So in terms of buying a house, anyone can buy a house in the UK, wherever they're from, as long as they have the money to do so. Now, as we know, there are two ways to get funds. One is either you have funds, so you get cash purchase, and the other is a mortgage. Now, a lot of the time, mortgage companies, they're very strict on who they give money to. I believe it's harder to track money when it's not in this country. So if there's an individual that doesn't live here, it would be a lot harder. There'd be a lot more stricter rules, higher interest rate, things like that, and the diligence that we'd have to have as solicitors and conveyancers is a lot higher. We need to make sure that it is our responsibility that the mortgage company gets exactly what they want, and making sure that there's more due diligence taken on buying that property. In terms of cash purchases, there are other ways to do it. It might be that someone is unable to get a loan from a mortgage company. However, they have friends who they are able to borrow money from. They can either take loans or gifts. In such situations, a gift would be getting money from an individual and that individual having no rights to that gift after it's been given. So, for example, if I give yourself some money, let's say you wanted to buy a house for £100,000, and I give you £10,000 of that because that's how much you were short. I'd have to sign a declaration saying that I will not be expecting this money back from yourself, so that you have all rights to that £10,000, and me as an individual giving you that £10,000, I have no rights over that. I have no rights over that property or anything like that. Or we can just have a loan from someone else. It could be a private loan. There are solicitors that can represent in these situations, or they can just do it privately away from the solicitor, where it's an agreement between themselves. I believe there are a lot of individuals that get money from abroad. Could be from a friend abroad, who is sending money off to them into this country, and they tend to buy the house with the full amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing with this gift, do they have the person giving the gift? Do they have to declare where they got that money from?
Yes. So a lot of the time, we always ask for bank statements from the individual who's buying the property, and if they are saying that they are getting a gift from someone, we look at how much of that gift is in there and how much they are going to receive from the individual they're getting the gift from. Now we ask for 6 months bank statements from them.
Okay.
Those 6 months, it shows whether they are earning money which isn't fraudulent, or there are no issues in terms of their bank statements, because we need to know exactly where that money is coming from. If it's someone who has a business abroad and it comes from their business, we will know exactly that they're consistently getting money into their account and it's from a business as well. We can ask about what that business is, etc., etc. And the more questions we have, the more safer it is for ourselves as solicitors and for the transaction itself.
This all, when we do look at all of this, it's usually at the first point. So when we're dealing with clients, we usually send them this a form called the source of funds form. Now we've simplified this to a point where it makes it easy for the clients to input the information and break it down according to if it's from savings, investments, or if it's a gift that they're getting with regards to a cash purchase. So we usually ask for the information of the individual who is gifting and get into contact with them and get the information such as the bank statements, etc. And at this point, we review the information, and everything that we look at, it's just to make sure that our client is and this transaction is safe, and we communicate everything with our clients anyway. And it's basically 6 months worth of bank statements. For example, if you've got if it's coming from wage or redundancy or anything as such, then we'll just have a look at how this money has been accumulated. If we can't kind of add it up within the 6 months, we might request 12 months worth of bank statements. But overall, it's just basically just to make sure that the transaction is smooth and it's completely legal and safe for it to go ahead. But yeah.
Do you have any questions? Other questions?
I think one thing that I'd also like to mention, we did speak about mortgages. That we do deal with a lot of lenders, as Tafseer did mention earlier on. We do act on behalf of our client as well as the lender itself. But what Bond Adams also works with is Islamic finance, that's Sharia compliant. And we have a lot of individuals who come to us with regards to gatehouse matters.
Yeah, I believe Gatehouse, they recommend us in terms of when people do go to them for a loan or a mortgage, they tend to refer the client to us as well.
Yeah, and I think there's not a lot of firms that do deal with gatehouse matters, so I think we are pretty.
Yeah. We have quite a lot of experience. I believe we have a number of years worth of experience in terms of gatehouse matters. There's also other banks which do deal with this, and we are able to assist on these as well. It's not just gatehouse. There could be refinances as well that happens with Al Rayhan Bank, things like that. We can basically deal with any transaction in that area.
Yeah, I think with regards to lenders and banks, we're on about 50 panels.
I think at the moment it's about 53 lender panels. So I believe that's a high number in terms of the scope for panels. That means that any of these lenders that we do have, or that you are going to, we will most likely have. Yeah. Yes. I believe we'll take another break. Thank you very much. Okay, so right, guys, we're back. Bond Adam Solicitors with myself, Tafel, Misbah, and Geet. Um, yeah, in terms of we're just going back to what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Gatehouse Bank. Yeah, we deal with Islamic finance. Um, we can go through the whole transaction, and if you do have any further questions, we can always go through that with you guys.
Yeah, you just need to email in and just let us know that it is Gatehouse that you are willing to work with. And yeah, you just need to email us, and what we'll do is we'll pass it on to the property team. As we did mention, there are a lot of individuals in our team that do deal with Gatehouse. So when you do email in to lawyers@bondadams.com, and what will happen is your email will be forwarded on. Just put in your contact details, your name, your number, and your email, and whether it's just mention that it's a purchase of so and so property with Gatehouse that you're wanting to get a quote for. That will get forwarded onto our team, the property team, and then we'll get back to you. Normally, we do usually respond within 24 hours. So we'll provide you with a quote, see if there's something that we can help you with, and if there's any questions you have, we usually deal with that as well. And yeah, if you just email in. Alternatively, you can call our number you can call us on 0116 285 8080. Once again, that's 0116 285 8080. So just call in, and we can take down your inquiry over the phone and pass it on as well, whichever you prefer, whether it's emailing in or calling in. We'll pass it to the property team, and we should be able to provide you with a quote, and then it's completely up to yourself whether you want to go ahead with us or not. But as we did say, we do have a lot of experience with regards to Gatehouse matters. We have been dealing with a number of clients, and hopefully we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, and in terms of what Geet was saying in relation to matters abroad, we do have many individuals that are multilingual. We have people that can speak Turkish,
Mm-hmm.
Gujarati, Hindi, Urdu, and we have quite a few others as well.
Punjabi, Tamil,
Tamil as well, yeah.
Bengali.
So it's pretty good as well. That way you can communicate with us in any language, pretty much, yeah. So Pete, in terms of your immigration matters, I believe Misbah had a few questions.
Yes, so obviously with regards to immigration, I think I wanted to know more about the how immigration and family intertwine as two different sectors. So if you could give us a bit of information on that, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, with regards to immigration and family, these two areas of law will be combined. For example, when someone is in the UK on a spouse visa,
Mm-hmm.
this basically means when a British national or someone who's settled in the UK have sponsored someone from back home or from like any other country, and they come here on a spouse visa, and if their relationship or marriage breaks down, then obviously they'll be going through divorce proceedings, as well as the person who was in the UK on their spouse visa he or she may receive a letter from Home Office if their partner complains to the Home Office that their relationship has actually permanently ended.
So is this all whilst the permit is on, or is it?
So, for example, if someone's been, they normally get 2 years and 9 months visa, right?
Okay.
And initially, right? And if they come to UK and a year after their relationship breaks down, let's just imagine a scenario that the wife was a British citizen and she actually sponsored her husband. If their relationship breaks down, then wife can actually inform the Home Office that she's no longer with this person, and she will want his visa to be cancelled. Like, if someone's not in the UK, if someone's not together, then why would they want the person to live in the UK on on their sponsorship, if that makes sense to you.
Okay, I think we went through this with work permits, where you did say that after a certain number of years, they can apply for an indefinite leave. Is that the same when it comes to spousal visa?
Yes, if they follow the spouse visa route, which is called the partner route, they are usually put on this 5-year route, which basically means that they will get the indefinite leave after 5 years.
Okay, so let's just say, for example, after 5 years, unfortunately, a divorce occurs between the couple, and the one of the individual decides to inform Home Office that they no longer want the individual to remain in the UK. That, I'm guessing, would not apply.
If the person has been granted indefinite leave following the 5-year period, then it is very unlikely that the Home Office will actually intervene.
Okay, are there any exceptions?
It depends on, it also depends on the person's actual personal conduct as to whether he's actually risk to the public, risk to public, or whether he's done anything which doesn't make him a lawful citizen in the UK. It actually depends on the circumstances, but it is very rare that the Home Office will intervene. If a wife, for example, complains that my ex-husband simply used me for immigration purposes.
Okay.
Once they get the indefinite, obviously.
So basically, in that case, it would be a situation where, let's say it was the husband who was on indefinite leave, and then he asked for a divorce a year or two later after he's got that. Then, okay. Also, let's say in that situation, the divorce happened pre 5 years, and the person who was getting the visa, they end up getting a new visa with someone else being their partner. Would that be harder to get, or would it be a similar situation?
They will obviously have to prove that their relationship with this new person is actually genuine.
Okay.
If you just if someone for example just separated from their partner, and then 2 months down the line they just submit a new application saying, I'm actually in a genuine relationship with someone else, obviously the Home Office will doubt it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
I've got a question. For example, let's just say about while somebody's got their visa, let's say they're on about 4 years, and within a year they're trying to get their indefinite leave, but during that period they file for a divorce. However, as we do know that divorces sometimes do take a long period of time, if that divorce does run over the 5-year period, are they still able to get their indefinite leave, or does that kind of put them at risk where they may not get it?
Does it just stay on hold?
Okay, it obviously divorce proceedings do take sometimes a year, right? And it all depends if the settled person has actually reported it to the Home Office, has actually reported the fact that their relationship has broken down. If that is the case, then the person who is on a limited visa, he or she will actually receive a letter saying that the Home Office will curtail their leave on this date, and they are to actually make a application either on their behalf or leave the UK.
Do they have like a certain time limit on how long they are to leave the UK?
The Home Office usually, when you receive the letter from the Home Office, it is stated in there as to how long you have to either submit a new application or leave.
Generically, how long?
Usually, about 3 months.
3 months. Okay.
Okay.
And one more area where family and immigration do come into place is, for example, if someone is in the UK and they've not yet got their indefinite leave, and they are still their relationship has broken down, but they have children involved. Right, then that person who's on limited leave, he or she can actually apply to stay in the UK because they may have contact with their children who are British.
And in that case, can that be revoked at any point? Can it?
No, and then from going, okay, usually if you're on spouse visa, you are on a 5 year route to settlement. Like you get your indefinite leave after 5 years. But if you have if you have contact with your children and you actually have a strong family life with your children, then the Home Office will actually grant you further leave to remain, but on a 10 year route to settlement, which basically means that you will get your settlement after 10 years of being in the UK instead of 5.
Okay.
Okay, that's pretty interesting, to be honest. I don't really look at much immigration stuff, so yeah, it's actually quite interesting. We have a lot of questions. Um, okay, in terms of property, I'm going to ask you, Miss Bar, is there anything at this moment in time which I remember we spoke last time. There were a few issues in terms of exchange and completion that we'd speak about. In terms of now, is there anything that you feel like clients are unaware of when it comes to property matters? Anything at all?
From what I know, I think the first thing that I mentioned in today's session, where it was regarding where the clients may want to stay for a little bit longer after
Yeah.
completion, that's usually something that I've seen a little bit recently
Yeah.
in my files where they might want to stay for a few more days, and that if they've got a mortgage in place, that's not something that the lender kind of approves of. That's pretty much the only thing. Apart from that, transactions have gone pretty smoothly, and everything has gone well. Is there anything that comes to your mind?
Yeah, so just thinking about that, I thought in terms of completion, it might be that there could be some sort of agreement made where exchange happens on a certain date,
Mm-hmm.
and if an individual needs 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, they can set a completion date for that time, but exchange prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
In that situation, it protects the buyer as well,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it protects the seller, knowing that there is a deposit at the time. Um, if their property doesn't sell, I think that's a safe way for all individuals to be kept inside that transaction. That
Mm-hmm.
way, um,
I guess it limits the
yeah,
risk of the
yeah,
transaction falling through.
exactly. Um, yeah, that's the best option I can think of in terms of those situations. Even if it's an extra day, the client wants to stay at the seller wants to stay at the property for. If they exchange on one day and the next day they complete, at least they have that day of security, knowing that okay, I can set myself up, I can leave in a day, or if I'm looking for a place to stay at, I can just get it booked, and yeah, I can get that done in that one day, and the next day the keys will be yours.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because I think at the point of exchange, that's when you are completely bound in that transaction,
yeah,
and obviously you've already paid your deposit as well in majority of cases.
yeah,
So that kind of keeps everyone tied in.
yeah,
Obviously, if exchange hasn't occurred, then we're kind of still at risk of somebody pulling out of the transaction or the transaction just falling apart. So yeah,
yeah.
it's always.
I mean, it's common that we do exchange earlier. It's just that a lot of times we do it simultaneously, all in
Mhm.
one day, exchange and complete. Maybe because it might be that our clients want minimal risk,
Mhm.
in buying their property or selling their property. Now, yeah, in terms of if you want to if you want to minimize your risk in terms of not wanting someone to stay at the property or to protect the lender themselves, then it's always good to exchange earlier in
Yeah.
that case. Yeah.
And then again, let's just say if this does occur to the client, obviously, after hearing about this today, if you do have something that you do want to raise with your solicitors, if there's a purchase or a sale transaction, then it's always worthwhile mentioning this to your solicitor that this is something that we would propose. And as we are solicitors, we do go by your instructions. So if that's something that you would like for us to do, just communication
Yeah.
is all we need, and we can go about it
Yeah,
the same
I
way.
feel like the more in advance we're told about these things, the better it is. I believe that this is probably similar with immigration as well.
True.
It's always good to let your solicitor, your case handler know all the situations, any kind of terms that you have under the agreement. That way we can explain it to you whether this is possible, whether this isn't possible, whether it's legal, whether it's not. Um, but yeah, anything outside of that, if you do things in private, we have no say in any of this, and we can't advise you on any of this either.
Yeah, and I
If you
think
breach
it's
anything in the contract, then yeah.
yeah, and I think it's always good to kind of keep your solicitor in the clear about everything, because at the end of the day, this is your transaction and we're just working on your behalf. We're dealing with the matter for you. So the more you keep open about the things that you are wanting out of the transaction, and you let us know and you inform us beforehand, the better it is for the transaction itself. We do understand that there can be some transactions where you might know the opposite party and might arrange a few things in private, but it's always good to let us know about this so we can take the transaction in that way. But yeah, that was property and immigration for today. Uh, we discussed quite a few matters with regards to both aspects of law. And if there is anything, as we did mention before, just email in, whether it's for immigration, property, anything related to family, or any other areas of law. If you do have a question or would like some advice or have a matter in place, email us on lawyers@bondadams.com, and feel free to give us a call at 0116 285 8080, and we shall get back to you as soon as we can. And thank